today is Tuesday, and Rex Tillerson was fired. By the way, have you heard that? Oh, yeah. One radio show after another, one TV show after another. Rex Tillerson was fired. And so I guess I should spend 14 hours on Rex Tillerson being fired. But here's what I'll say in my own defense. You go back and you listen to my show. I'm not urging you to do it. I'm just saying. You go back and listen to my show when this guy was nominated. You go back and look at social media when this guy was nominated. I said no, he's not good. He's establishment. He's part of the James Baker crowd. I don't have a problem with ExxonMobil, where he was chairman for many, many years. But he's not the kind of person that the president needs as Secretary of State. Mr. Producer, did I take more crap on that or what? Day in and day out, Facebook. Oh, Mark, what are you, never Trumper? Oh, Mark, what's wrong with you? Oh, Mark, what are you, an Israel firster? Oh, Mark, on and on and on and on. And most of the people attacking me, they didn't know Rex Tillerson from Rex Reed or Tyrannosaurus Rex. This isn't personal. I have nothing personal, no personal animus against the man. But I knew he wasn't up to this job. And he's not. And it is a very good thing that the president has recognized this and decided, it's time to move on. The media, of course, it's more evidence of an administration that's out of control, of an administration that's fumbling and bumbling. The media are sick. They're sick. They're pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And the choice of Mike Pompeo, Mike Pompeo, a CIA director, has done an outstanding job. When you see him on TV, when he speaks, he's very, very solid. Very solid. Now, Rex Tillerson, it was actually the Washington Free Beacon and Adam Credo who broke this, not these other media outlets. He points out that the firing of Tillerson follows months of infighting between the State Department and the White House over Tillerson's efforts to save the Iran nuclear deal. Now, several months ago, I told you that Tillerson had hired, among others, a top advisor, a top strategist of Bob Corker's of Tennessee, a guy who literally worked on the Iran deal with the Obama administration, a guy who literally worked on circumventing the treaty clause of the Constitution so they turned the vote on its head. Rather than needing a supermajority of United States senators present, 2/3, to ratify a treaty. What happened? Under Corker, they turned it on its head. They turned it around so that the President of the United States could cut a deal with Iran, and unless the Senate could come up with a supermajority to override a veto, 60 votes, Obama would get what he wanted. So Corker and one of his brainchildren there who worked on it, that brainchild wound up at the State Department under Tillerson. And there were other horrific appointments under Tillerson. And I told you about them at the time. So to me, it is evidence that we have a president of the United States who can look back and say, you know what, I got to change this. And I got to put somebody in there. I'm dealing with North Korea. I'm dealing on this Iran deal. I'm dealing with Russia. I'm dealing with all these autocracies, all these violent, nasty regimes. And I need somebody else as Secretary of State. And he picked his CIA director. What could be more perfect? Now, let's take it the next step. You watch as the Democrats in the Senate try to kneecap Pompeo. You watch as the Democrats in the Senate try and delay it. Because they're not about the country. They're not about national security and defense, which they eviscerate every time they're in power. They're not about any of that. You watch as they try and slow this down, as they have virtually every other appointment, other than Rod Rosenstein, and we know why now. But then the president did something else today. He says, I'm going to name Gina Haspel director of the CIA. Now, honestly, I never heard of her before. I've spent several hours researching her background now. She was the deputy director of the CIA under Pompeo, under Trump. And she'd be the first woman heading the CIA. Now, honestly, I don't care what somebody's genitalia is, what they do with it, where it is, what it is, when it was. I don't care. But you know, if it were Barack Obama who was president of the United States and he appointed the first woman of the CIA, the media would be going bonkers. They love it. They go on and on and on. And she'd be absolutely politically bulletproof. Nobody dare say a word. Or you're against women. Or you're against women. And then they would turn it into an issue in the election. That the Republicans are against women because they oppose a woman nominated to the CIA. And here we go again. Whether it's African Americans or Hispanics or women. If they're conservative, even not that. If they're not left-wing kooks, they go after them. And when they go after them, so does John McCain. John McCain is very sick. I don't talk about him anymore because I don't feel it's the right thing to do, but he comes out. He speaks out against this woman. And the Associated Press, all these reasons why the liberals should oppose the women. The Boston Globe, all these reasons why the Senate should oppose this woman. And when we come back, I want to tell you what the reasons are. Because I think these are all the reasons why she should be supported. This woman, Gina Haspel, as it turns out, is a great patriot. Is a great patriot. And when 9/11 struck, she jumped into action. And she ought to be celebrated. The eventual nomination by the President of the United States of Gina Haspel to be Deputy Director of the FBI ought to be celebrated. Which means she will continue to be smeared by CNN, MSNBC, the networks, and of course the lib media all around. I'll be right back. All right, Gina Haspel, as written by the Boston Globe with assistance from the Associated Press. Here's what Martin Finucane has to say, or Finucane, whatever. Gina Haspel was named by President Trump to head the CIA, moving into the post opened up by the departure of Mike Pompeo to be Secretary of State. A decorated career CIA officer who joined the agency in 1985, she has extensive overseas experience, according to the CIA website. She's also held leadership posts in Washington and was elevated to Deputy Director of the FBI in February. Trump on Tuesday called her an outstanding person. But her past bears a closer look. Now, this is supposed to be a media outlet. Her past bears a closer look. Here's 6 things to know about Haspel. So now what will happen, you see, ladies and gentlemen, is the leftists dressed up as journalists, they're the one with the pointy heads. They will use this against her, as will Democrats in Congress, as will John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and others. So her confirmation is not certain. What does the Boston Globe and the AP want us to know? Number 1, Haspel ran a secret CIA prison in Thailand in 2002, where terrorist suspects were subjected to waterboarding. Now, ladies and gentlemen, waterboarding was permitted in the Bush administration after 9/11, which was 2001. She oversaw the brutal interrogation. You hear the media? The brutal interrogation. Why? Did they cut off ears or pull out teeth with the pliers? Or use a baseball bat in a way it shouldn't be used? No. They were waterboarded, you see. She oversaw the brutal interrogation of 2 detainees, Abu Yabadabadoo and Abdal Yabadabadoo. The New York Times reported. Yabadabadoo number 1 was subjected to waterboarding 83 times in a single month. Oh, woe is me. Woe is me. As well as confinement in coffin-like boxes and other abuse. Was he killed? No. Okay, he should count himself among the lucky. Interrogators later conceded He'd given them all the information that he had. Number two, Haspel also helped carry out a 2005 order that the agency destroy videos of the waterboarding. Back in Washington, as chief of staff to the director of operations for counterterrorism, Jose Rodriguez, she drafted a cable ordering the destruction of the tapes. ProPublica reported. Now, ProPublica is not pro-America. That much I know. It's another left-wing goon site. But then again, so is the Boston Globe. Rodriguez said in his memoir, Hard Measures, that he approved sending the cable to get rid of some ugly visuals that would put his people's lives at risk. A lengthy Justice Department investigation of tape destruction ended without charges. Doesn't matter. This poor lady's going to go through the meat grinder. Even though she's the first woman ever nominated to run the CIA. Even though, if she were, excuse me, a liberal, appointed by a liberal president, they'd be celebrating in the streets. Let's continue. Why else are we supposed to hate her for helping to protect us? Her involvement with waterboarding, number three, has caused her trouble in the past. When the CIA wanted to name her to run clandestine operations, in 2013, Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, soon to be ex-senator, by the way, then the senior Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Let's stop right there. No liberal should be on the Senate or House Intelligence Committee. You know why, Mr. Producer? Because they don't have intelligence. That is, low IQ. So, when you say, like, Adam Shifty Shiftless is on the Intelligence Committee, he should be on the Dummy Committee. But let's continue. She blocked, Feinstein did, the promotion because of her role in the enhanced interrogation. This is sickening to me. We have these American heroes who are at the CIA. And they are asked, if not directed, to get information. We just came under attack. We lost 3,000 American citizens. You know what happened. And then we look back, 17 years later, and we're to punish the very people who helped protect us? It really is appalling to me. Let's go on, because there's more reasons we're supposed to hate Gina Haspel, and every reason they give makes me like her even more. Number four, her appointment by Trump to deputy director in February of this year also drew flack from the American Civil Liberties Union, a.k.a. the American Criminal Liberties Union. So now we have ProPublica, a.k.a. ProPublica, a left-wing kook broadcasting outfit that trashed her. Now we have the ACLU that trashed her. And, of course, it winds up in the Boston Globe and AP. Senators Ron Wyden. Now, there's a nut job. I'll tell you that. And Martin Heinrich. Oh, Heinrich. Martin Heinrich. Enough said. Democrats from Oregon and New Mexico respectively wrote President Trump saying, her background makes her unsuitable for the position. And on Tuesday, Human Rights First's Raha Walla. Say what? Here I'm reading a news article and I can't pronounce half the names. No offense. Whatever happened to Johnson and Smith, Mr. I don't know. But let's continue. Raha Walla of Human Rights First, of course, an authority on all human rights, even though we don't know who she is or he is. No one who had a hand in torturing individuals deserves to ever hold public office again, let alone lead an agency. Really? So virtually every general during World War II, every admiral during World War II who fought the Japanese should never have held a public position. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who did more than torture, with the internment of Japanese Americans and Americans of Japanese descent, and who ordered the execution of German spies who came up on our shores in New York and so forth. He shouldn't have held public office either. What a joke. And then there's a number 5 and a number 6, and I don't even care. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to get behind this lady because she's a patriot. Because she's a patriot. And I never heard of her before, Gina Haspel, but I'm very, very impressed. And watch how these really tough men gang up on her. and all these phony civil rights groups gang up on her, and all these knucklehead Republicans gang up on her. She's to be punished, you see, because she helped protect America against the onslaught from the jihadis. I'll be right back. Headline, Washington Examiner. John McCain slams Trump's nominee for CIA director for participating in, quote, one of the darkest chapters in American history. He is dead wrong. This is not one of the darkest chapters in American history. It's one of the greatest chapters in American history. When our government moved effectively and quickly to defend the people of the United States, to find out if there were going to be any more attacks on the United States. Now they're going to trash this patriot who did her job and did it wonderfully? They're going to deny her a CIA directorship? Absolutely incredible to me, and I want to salute the president for nominating her, and let me give advice to the administration. If she's blocked somehow, he should recess appoint her to the head of the CIA. Recess appoint her, which lasts through the existing Congress, and then recess appoint her again. This Congress is one of the worst Congresses in American history. Republicans and Democrats alike. They will not secure the border. They will not repeal Obamacare. The long list of will not this and will not that seems infinite to me. Infinite to me. They point to 3 or 4 things they did, and we're supposed to celebrate them and hold a ticker tape parade. Now, Tillerson's fired. Here's what Trump had to say outside the White House as he's getting into his helicopter, so keep in mind it's going to be a little hard to hear. Cut 5, go.
I've worked with Mike Pompeo now for quite some time. Tremendous energy, tremendous intellect. We're always on the same wavelength. The relationship has been very good, and that's what I need as Secretary of State. I wish Rex Tillerson well. Gina, by the way, who I know very well, who I've worked very closely, will be the first woman director of the CIA. She is an outstanding person who also I have gotten to know very well. So I've gotten to know a lot of people very well over the last year. And I'm really at a point where we're getting very close to having the cabinet and other things that I want.
But all right, that's enough. Well, I would say this to you, Mr. President. As I tried to advise you not to go with Tillerson, I want to advise you on another front. Your National Security Council. I would strongly discourage you from listening to Condoleezza Rice or the Bush 43 people if you do in fact replace H.R. McMaster, and these are the rumors that are flying around. I don't have any inside information. I would strongly discourage you from picking somebody that Condi Rice promotes or that whole Bush crowd, the James Baker crowd. They're the ones who encourage you to pick Tillerson. They're the ones who encourage you to pick Tillerson. Now they're encouraging you to pick somebody who used to work with and for Condi Rice. And I know everybody loves Condi Rice. She's a very nice lady from what I can see on TV. She says some very, very good things. But she's not a conservative. She used to link up with Colin Powell against Dick Cheney. And Colin Powell, well, he turned out to be a real knucklehead, didn't he? So, Mr. President, surrogates listening to me from the White House who advise the White House, I advise the White House behind this microphone. I don't advise in any other way. Do not pick anybody proposed by Condi Rice. As a matter of fact, let me go on record again. Mr. President, you've got the captain of the A-team sitting on the sidelines. The captain of the A-team sitting on the sidelines. Should you replace H.R. McMaster? And as you just said, you're getting to the point where you really have the people you want around you. pick John Bolton. John Bolton as your director of the National Security Council. And you will see, of course, you'll get the same resistance you got when you decided to acknowledge Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and move the embassy to Jerusalem. The same resistance you got when you decided to take military steps and economic steps to really squeeze North Korea. The same resistance you got when you shot 59 missiles at that Syrian airport after they were busy gassing their babies and their women. In other words, the same people who have resisted you from within the Republican Party, including never-Trumpers, they will discourage you from picking John Bolton. They will encourage you to pick somebody who Condoleezza Rice or that crowd from the old Bush team recommends. Don't do it. Don't do it. Pompeo is Secretary of State. Your new CIA director, Haspel, and Bolton, head of the National Security Council, that is a trifecta. An absolute trifecta, as far as I'm concerned. Now listen to what the president also said. This is important. Cut 6, go.
Rex and I have been talking about this for a long time. We got along actually quite well, but we disagreed on things. When you look at the Iran deal, I think it's terrible. I guess it was okay. I wanted to either break it or do something, and he felt a little bit differently. So we were not really thinking the same. With Mike Pompeo, we have a very similar thought process.
And the Washington Free Beacon, and really a great reporter, Adam Credo, he tells us exactly what took place here. Exactly. In the weeks leading up to Tillerson's departure, he'd been spearheading efforts to convince European allies to agree to a range of fixes to the nuclear deal that would address Iran's ongoing ballistic missile program and continued nuclear research. While Trump had prescribed a range of fixes that he viewed as tightening the deal's flaws, Tillerson recently caved to European pressure to walk back these demands and appease Tehran while preserving the deal, according to these sources. The Free Beacon first disclosed this tension last week in a wide-ranging report. And it goes on that Tillerson was warned to back off, but he wouldn't. So the reason Trump fired him, quite frankly, is he went rogue and he undermined his boss, the President of the United States. That's what happened. And Donald Trump is being very generous to him in the comments he's making about him. The Iran deal is no damn good. It endangers your family, your children, and your grandchildren. To imagine, as Netanyahu said, and as the president has said, the Iranians with ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, which are intended to hit America, that regime would have the ability to put nuclear warheads on those missiles and aim them at our cities, cannot be accepted. We already have one regime like that. So Tillerson was fired. He was fired. Not because there's confusion in the Trump administration, because he was undermining the president's position. And if anything, this shows the President of the United States is prepared to take action. He's prepared to do what he has to do to advance his principles and his beliefs. Now, in some respects, I disagree with him on tariffs and so forth. But you got to give the man credit. He is trying to implement his policies. And I can't think of a more dangerous area than dealing with Iran. And you cannot have a Secretary of State who's in the cabinet, who reports to the President of the United States, going off on his own, working behind the President's back, with the Europeans, with the doves in the Democrat Party, with the doves in the Republican Party, when the President's trying to rein in Iran and trying to deal with this disastrous Iran deal, this unconstitutional Iran deal that Obama imposed on the American people without going through the treaty process. And of course, the crappy nutjob media in this country run to the defense of Tillerson and trash the President of the United States. Let me ask you something. In firing Tillerson, in promoting Pompeo, and putting this Haspel, or at least intending to nominate her for the CIA, does this sound like a man who's deranged? Does this sound like a madman? Does this sound like a man who needs to be removed under the 25th Amendment? No. Sounds like a man who's fully in charge. Doesn't it? You see, where I take exception for those who are obsessed with hating Trump is their character assassination efforts. And that's what they are. And where I take exception with pseudo-conservatives, people who used to be conservatives, is that they sell out themselves and their principles and undermine their own integrity and character by agreeing with Trump when Trump is doing things that are liberal. You don't have to do any of these things, folks. You stick by your principles, and you can still support the President of the United States as the President, and yet challenge him on certain of his positions. My goal and your goal is not to sabotage him. Hardly. I don't think there's a stronger defender for the President of the United States against what the Democrats and the media and the prosecutor are trying to do to him than I. I don't think there's a stronger one. But the fact of the matter is, in this case, he was right on. The Secretary of State that he chose was a mistake from day one. It came out of that Condi Rice crowd. And now he's fixed it. And should H.R. McMaster step down or be pushed out or whatever the case may be, I just hope he doesn't go to that same well to pick another person he'll be disappointed with when he's got the captain of the A-team sitting right on the bench. He's got Mr. Wentz right there in the name of Mr. Bolton. I'll be right back. All right, let's take a call here. Jim, Irvington, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go.
It's very nice to talk to you, Mark. I just got to say these couple things, and then I'll shut up. First of all, John Bolton has dual citizenship to Israel.
Hey, dummy. He does not have dual citizenship with Israel.
He's got dual citizenship.
Hey, pay attention to me, you moron. He does not have dual citizenship with Israel. Go back to the rock from which you crawled, you moron.
Oh.
Believe this? Get off the phone, you idiot. Doesn't have dual citizenship with Israel. Sick. Well, we started off with a good one there. Jason, Springfield, Illinois, the great WTAX. Go.
Mark Levin, the great one. How you doing?
I'm fine. Go right ahead, sir.
My biggest question is, we're every time we get rid of somebody from the White House cabinet, we always select somebody else. Like he's done these selections from the CIA. And
What? All right. Why the hell am I going to the calls anyway? Why am I going to the calls anyway? All right, let's see if we can redeem ourselves with another caller. Paul, Milford, Delaware, on the Mark Levin app. Go.
Hey, what a pleasure. What an absolute pleasure. You made my day today just listening to you.
Thank you, sir.
The A-Team, which I was very impressed with your interpretation of the A-Team. He's my man, John Bolton, and I think Bolton is just waiting in the wings. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that he had a special meeting with the president just last week.
I read that.
And I think,
I hope it went well.
A pat on the back and a look in the eye, and I think he was told, not too long, just stand by a little bit longer.
I hope so. Stay away from that Bush team. That's what I would say. You don't need Condoleezza Rice's advice. Condoleezza Rice. Condi gave the advice for Tillerson, which was a huge mistake. Thank you, Paul. We'll be back. All right, I waited this long, so let me do it for you. So Rex Tillerson responded to the president today and his firing. And I have to say, we talked here. He sounds almost like a broken man or a man who's ready to break up emotionally. And here in part is what he said. Cut one, go.
I received a call today from the President of the United States at a little after noontime from Air Force One, and I've also spoken to White House Chief of Staff Kelly to ensure we have clarity as to the days ahead. What is most important is to ensure an orderly and smooth transition during a time that the country continues to face significant policy and national security challenges.
He sounds very upset to me, doesn't he, to you, Rich? He's barely holding it together, I think. Okay, and I understand that. Go ahead.
As such, effective at the end of the day, I'm delegating all responsibilities of the Office of the Secretary to Deputy Secretary of State Sullivan. My commission as Secretary of State will terminate at midnight, March the 31st.
And I'm sure this is very hard for him. But honestly, if he couldn't work with the administration in terms of advancing policies, if he was going sideways, particularly on big issues like Iran and so forth, he should have stepped down himself. He shouldn't waited to the point where the president had to oust him, quite frankly. Cut two, go.
To my Foreign Service officers and civil service colleagues, we all took the same oath of office. Whether you're a career, employee, or political appointee, we are all bound by that common commitment to support and defend the Constitution, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to faithfully discharge the duties of our office. As a State Department, we are bound together by that oath. We remain steadfast here in Washington and at posts across the world, many of whom are in danger-pay situations without their families. The world needs selfless leaders like these, ready to work with long-standing allies, new emerging partners and allies, who now, many are struggling as democracies, and in some cases are dealing with human tragedy, crisis of natural disasters, literally crawling themselves out of those circumstances.
He sounds very upset to me. Again, as you can imagine. Go ahead.
In other areas, while progress has been made, much work remains. In Syria, we did achieve important ceasefires and stabilizations, which we know has saved thousands of lives. There's more to be done in Syria, particularly with respect to achieving the peace, as well as stabilizing Iraq and seeing a healthy government installed, and more broadly in the entire global campaign to defeat ISIS. Nothing is possible without allies and partners, though. Much work remains to establish a clear view of the nature of our future relationship with China. How shall we deal with one another over the next 50 years and ensure a period of prosperity for all of our peoples, free of conflict between two very powerful nations? And much work remains to respond to the troubling behavior and actions on the part of the Russian government. Russia must assess carefully as to how its actions are in the best interest of the Russian people and of the world more broadly. Continuing on their current trajectory is likely to lead to greater isolation on their part, a situation which is not in anyone's interest.
Anyway, I'm not going to play any more. It's obviously a sad event in his life and his family's life. I've never understood this appointment. I've never understood it. It was pushed by Condoleezza Rice, James Baker, that whole crowd. Henry Kissinger. I have never understood this appointment, ever. And I think the president now realizes that Tillerson, at least when it came to the Iran deal, as well as other aspects of his desired foreign policy, was organizing and scheming behind his back. And, you know, for the media in this country, they like that. They like that. It's why they like John McCain. Poor John McCain, you know, he's very, very sick. He's fighting for his life. But he puts out a statement trashing the current deputy director of the CIA, who the president is going to nominate to head the CIA. That is very sad that he does such things. But again, the media love it. There's no reason to defend Tillerson. Not particularly good at what he was doing. And he wasn't advancing the president's agenda. president's agenda is not unconstitutional. It's not crazy. It's not radical. His foreign policy has been absolutely superb. His foreign policy has been absolutely superb. His instincts, for the most part, are very, very good when it comes to dealing with these other countries. All right, I'll be right back. Michael, I'm taking all the disagreeables. San Francisco, the great KSFO. Go right ahead, sir.
Hello, Mark. Thanks for having me on. You expressed some confusion about why Rex Tillerson was appointed. It's actually very simple. He is, as you know, the former longtime CEO of ExxonMobil. He is also very, very known as Vladimir Putin's closest American friend. The reason for that being Russia has about $1 trillion worth of Arctic oil resources that they want to exploit with Exxon.
Let me. Whose district do you live in there?
Just finish.
No, I'm not going to let you finish. Why would I let you finish with your nutcase conspiracy theory that he was chosen because of his ties to Russia and Russian collusion? Now, answer my question before I make you skedaddle. I asked you whose district, who's your congressperson?
My congressperson, the soon-to-be Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, okay. So in other words, you're just an ideologue who calls a show to spew your stupidity.
Not an ideologue at all. I'm just someone.
Well, of course you're an ideologue. You're a leftist.
I respect you in some ways.
So I don't care if you respect me or not in some ways. The bottom line is you're saying Tillerson was chosen because of this conspiracy stuff you guys got going. Honestly, I think it's sick. I think it's absolutely sick.
But the fact is that the story about Donald Trump and Russia...
If he wanted somebody who was susceptible to Putin's entreaties, if he wanted somebody who was known to advance Putin's cause, he would have picked Hillary Clinton to be his Secretary of State.
No, that's not true.
No, yes, it is true, because she gave 20% of control over our uranium to Putin. Or maybe he would have picked Susan Rice to be the Secretary of State, since she refused to confront the Russians who were interfering in our election. What do you think about that, sir?
What do I think about the fact that the Russians interfere with our election? I think it's terrifying.
Is there a problem with liberals? Do they have wax in their ears? What is the problem? Let me try the question again, because you're coming across to 8 million people as an ignoramus. My question to you is this. If Donald Trump wanted to appoint a Secretary of State who was a sellout to Putin, he would have appointed Hillary Clinton or Susan Rice. Wouldn't he have done that? Given what Hillary Clinton gave to Putin? Given that Susan Rice obstructed efforts to stop Putin from interfering in our election? Go ahead.
Let me tell the 8 million people who are listening to us to go Google Vladimir Putin's...
Get off the phone, you moron. Notice he can't answer a question. Can't answer a question. What's happened to liberalism? It's gotten dumber and dumber. Okay. Don, South Florida, the great WBOB. Well, WBOB isn't in South Florida.
No. I work in South Florida. I'm driving up home.
Oh, okay. How are you?
Come down and visit sometime, man. We'd love to have you. Hey, so here's the deal.
Wait a minute. When's dinner? I'll come right over. Anyway, go right ahead.
We'll work that out. Hey, so here's the deal. Tillerson was, 28 years at Exxon, and he was CEO of one of the largest corporations, most profitable corporations in the world. On the surface, it made sense. Even to me, it kind of made sense. I've worked in the oil and gas industry very briefly, and these guys are international businessmen. They're politically connected. They have to be to do the work that they do. So on the surface, when you ask how did that happen, it kind of sort of made sense on the surface. Okay, so I'll give President Trump a pass on that appointment. He was given advice by, I like Condi Rice. Okay, I like some of the folks that you were talking about.
It's not a matter of like. I'm not taking them to dinner. I'm not buying them a Christmas gift. Condi Rice is of a completely different school when it comes to foreign policy.
Well, I am too. And guess what? Tillerson was used to being the guy in charge. He was used to
you've said that twice
being
now.
The quarterback. But my point is, if Trump told him to go sweep the parking lot and to put it into a corner, he damn sure should have done that. If he told him to go out to Putin and tell him, hey, we're going to take $50 billion of your assets for putting nerve agents, in Syria against our Marines?
Well, it turns out he was working behind Trump's back on this Iran deal, and he was more representing the position of the Europeans than he was the American position.
That's exactly right, and he was dead wrong, and he should have been sacked for it, just like it was.
I agree.
And you could tell in his voice he's not used to getting thumped.
No, he was very upset. And by the way, I don't like seeing him be upset, but it is what it is. All right, Don, good call. Thank you. David, Racine, Wisconsin, the great WLS. Go.
Mark, I hope I don't sound too much like an equine posterior. But,
I don't think you will.
Having a little problem with, I'm glad Trump got rid of Rex Tillerson. I guess I had a little trouble when he started supporting man-made climate change believer, and the fact that he was seemed to go native oftentimes. So
I agree.
Maybe the fact that it's a good that we're going to have some change in Secretary of State. Plus the fact that the lack of ambassadorships being filled in, and the staff.
Some of that is Congress, but he was widely known as somebody who was not a team player. And by the way, you know who else is widely known as not being a team player? That Mnuchin over there at Treasury, loaded up with a bunch of leftists. Are you aware of that, sir?
Yes, sir. That's one of the things that was also concerning, and that's part of the education I got from your programming, sir.
Mm-hmm. All right, David. We thank you for your call in Wisconsin. Let us go to Stacy, Englewood, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go right ahead.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for taking my call. You are my man on radio. You're my favorite. So wise.
Thank you.
When you said ace in the hole, like you didn't even say his name, I was started to yell at the radio, John Bolton, John Bolton. I've been a huge fan of his since I was in law school and he was at the UN during the Bush administration. And I started listening to him and just, I got to know him and I got to go to an event where he was there. He's so brilliant. He's so knowledgeable. He's so decent. The exact opposite of how
And he happens to be right. That's the point.
That is the point. And he's courageous. And even though he's decent and like gentlemanly, the media doesn't know he is a quiet tiger. And Trump would, if what you say, if McMaster or whoever is going to be replaced.
Well, I don't know that he is firsthand. I'm just seeing these reports.
I'm praying because when Tillerson was up, it was like Tillerson and Bolton for Secretary of State. I was like praying. I'm like, Bolton, come on.
All right, Stacy. I appreciate it. Thank you. Got it. Jeffrey, Santa Barbara, California. AM 870, The Answer. Go.
Hey, Mark. I was just curious. I don't understand your opposition to this federal judge who's following the law against somebody who was indicted for 31 federal crimes.
Which law is he following, sir?
I believe there are 31 indictments against him.
No, pal, don't play games. The audience is smart. You're not going to outsmart us. Which law was the judge following, I asked you?
If this man was an illegal...
Which law was the judge following, Jeffrey?
Actually, it's Jeffy, but...
I don't care. Jeffy? The hell names their kid Jeffy? All right, Jeffy. Which law? You said the judge was following the law. And I've asked you 3 times. Which law was he following? You're an idiot. Get off the phone. Wasn't following any law. It's up to him. It's in his discretion. Hey, Judge is following the law. He's got 31 charges against. I don't care if you have 31,000 charges against you. He may be found guilty. He may not. Since when in our country is a charge enough? It's really quite appalling listening to these liberals call. They're tyrants, the liberals. They're tyrants. They believe in civil liberties unless you're a mass murderer, unless you're a terrorist. They don't believe in civil liberties. What a bunch of quacks. Let's continue, shall we? Patricia, Wild Rose, Wisconsin, the great. Where are you listening to us?
Hi, it's WSAU out of Washington.
That's right. WSAU, that's right. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm calling about a couple things. First of all, Hillary's most recent comments about women saying how women didn't vote.
Do you agree with me that she's mentally deranged?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. She's very insulting, and I'm personally insulted. I mean, I think for myself, nobody told me who to vote for.
The women around me, I can't tell them anything. And the idea that women who voted against her are doing it because their husbands or their boyfriends or their fathers tell them who to vote for, seems to me that she's the one that has problems with women. All right, we have 1 minute. Go right ahead, Patricia.
Okay, I also want to congratulate you on your Life, Liberty, and Levin show and your interview with Benjamin Netanyahu. It was outstanding.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic.
Well, you're very, very kind. And this coming Sunday, we're going to spend the entire hour, listen to this, discussing the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and Churchill with one of the great intellects in this regard, Dr. Larry Arnn, the president of Hillsdale College. So I hope you'll watch. We'll be right back.